Supposedly grown, supposedly grown, supposedly grown, supposedly grown. Supposedly grown.
She had the boo-boo?
Maybe.
It's a possibility.
We did just throw down a big burrito.
I haven't heard the word boo boo in forever.
Not since
Or
high school.
Dookie. You're
Dookie, huh?
yeah, you gotta go take a dookie.
Ooh. Who are you hanging out with that uses that word?
I was a little hood rat.
I know you were.
Said the word dookie.
You're the biggest hood rat.
I can't hear anybody.
No?
Yeah, I can hear everybody now.
He had his phone upside down. Sorry.
I can't hear anybody. I can hear everybody.
Lulus.
The snozberries taste like snozberries, man.
The
How about y'all stop
snozberries taste like
underwear
snozberries.
back
They're
there?
not underwear.
Yeah.
Amazing.
10,000 tons of ice
If you get
cream.
on
What?
TikTok, look you up a little bit.
What was that?
It was. I was
The most-
talking about the 10,000 tons of ice cream. Of ice cream. I can't make. I can't
Why
make
did,
the
you say, why did you put the emphasis on the ice cream? Ice cream.
voice. That's why she said it though. 10,000 tons of ice cream. I can't say it like that. My voice
Every
sounds
color
stupid.
of that wine, though. And you can get Did you tell him I was using the bathroom?
Yeah.
That's rude.
Is it rude?
You could have said she had to go do something.
I said you're in the body. I got
think
kids.
where are you at?
now-
Are you at their house?
Yeah,
Well, you suck. Why didn't everybody else get a freaking invite?
it wasn't. Amy
Yeah,
called
whatever.
me.
Yeah, whatever. You
and
boo
I
boo.
thought
Yeah, you were boo booing.
You dookie. You're a
And then I told
dookie.
Amy, I said,
She's
yeah,
a
girl,
dingling.
we
She's a
cook it.
dingling head, Pat. Caca. Caca head.
What the hell?
Is this what quarantine has done to us? Is this what
she
it's
is.
done?
I'm pissed. I'm pissed that she's over there.
Can't forget that one. So guys, besides talking about each other, I figured we could talk about political correctness. I figured that'd be a
calling me
funny.
dingling head wasn't politically correct.
Dingling better than.
It sure was.
It's a penis. And
Would penis head be better?
yeah.
Okay.
I don't know what a ding. I'm offended by dingling. It's penis or what?
Ding dong the thing.
All right, so call her a penis head from now on. She doesn't
won't
want
call her a
dingling.
penis head. She's a dingling, caca head, or whatever the hell it is.
So like better than. Oh yeah. We're gonna use scientific terms.
I love how he was like, I will not call her that, but I will call her. Like he was just putting his foot down.
I got to, bro.
No one is gonna tell me what I can call.
Yeah, I will tell you what to call me. If I want to be referred to as they, you refer to me as such. That's how the world works now.
I will not.
He called you a
That is what I
dingling.
identify with. Huh?
I'm
He
gonna
called
stick.
you.
He did call you a dingling head.
Nope, I'm they. Thank you.
What if he calls you they dingling heads?
That's as long as you acknowledge all of them.
Multiple.
All would be
Ew.
things I identify with. Is that what that means when they say they?
I don't know. What does that mean?
When they
You know
say
how-
what?
You know how they have certain terms they want to be identified as, right? Their identifier word or whatever.
Like he, she,
They, them, X, whatever the hell it
Yeah.
is. Like there's a bunch
I
of
don't
terms.
know.
People
I don't
like
know. I just want to know. My mom never gave a damn who they was going to the party. They are going. Everybody else is going. Who is they? Who is they?
That's what. That's
I don't know who
really
it is.
not the
We
question.
still don't know who they is. I just know they were allowed to go do other shit that I wasn't allowed to. Because I could never tell them who they was. But everybody else is going, who? They, them. Who is them? Who is they?
That is a $1 million question. Who is they?
Who is they? Who is them?
Now we know because those people
Yeah.
identify themselves now.
Yeah. Now that do you be like that's they, them, right there.
That's them right there.
That's them. That's who they be.
Or like, oh, you know what they say, blah blah. Who is they? Them.
Who is they? Exactly. When you tell me who they is, then you will be able to go with they.
Well, now you can just. I know people who
you can
identify
point 'em.
as they. You can be like they.
You can point them out.
Now, or how about we're all grown now, so I'm not even asking. Fuck that shit. I'm just going.
Yeah, right. So
I'll meet they at the bar when it opens up. I'll meet him whenever we get to the place we're going. I'm not asking anymore.
Okay. Speaking of politically correctness, what would you prefer, Black or African American?
Ooh.
Oh, that's real.
Just American.
I think it's I am American. Yeah, I'm American, but I'm Black.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I can get down. Like, if you have to identify me by
If
my
I
skin
had to identify
I
as
think-
one, I would identify as Black.
yeah.
I think that's the big issue, though, is that trying to identify people based off of their past bloodline, right? Like, yeah, our people may have come from Mexico, but I don't think
I'm American, homeboy.
Yeah,
Exactly.
At the end of the day,
Shit, I'm probably more American than some quote unquote white people. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
true,
Like,
yeah.
First of all, let's not get into that. They didn't find America. Don't start that.
No. I'm saying my people have been here longer. So why am I African American and you're
Exactly.
just American.
yeah?
Exactly.
You don't have to check.
Motherfucker. Goddamn. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a big issue. Is like trying to separate each American into certain categories. Why can't we just all be American?
Yeah.
They're Caucasians from the hills of Caucasia, though.
My birth certificate says I'm Caucasian.
Caucasian from the country of Caucasia.
From
Yeah.
Caucasia. Where is that? Where's Caucasian
It's a really
from?
popular area.
From
They serve a whole bunch of bland ass food and they play.
what? I think Caucasus always political.
Nice.
Where is that from?
Black potato salad.
They're from Caucasia, bro.
What is Caucasian?
Caucasia is it's a place. It's a place.
It is definitely a mindset. There is some Caucasian ass thinking in a lot of places.
Yo, oh, bro. Oh, that's funny. Oh man.
All those Karens out there.
You know, though,
what?
But
First of all, that's not a.
It's a European origin.
Yeah. Well, like they say, okay, like everybody wants to identify as him, her, we, they, whatever, whatever everybody wants. But there's some kind of line there because there's for real, a group in California, and I couldn't believe this was a thing.
Uh-oh.
There's a group of people in California who have now legally changed what they are. They believe and they walk around that they are unicorns.
No.
They don't. I cannot make this up. Look it up. Look, I promise you there is a group of people. They even
magical?
No, but they do wear horns on their head.
They could be bulls. They could be anything.
But they identify as unicorns, and they are very for real about this. I mean, obviously, I feel like there's the line, but there's the line right there. Like you can't say, okay, if a girl wants to be a guy or a guy wants to be a girl, whatever, man. Man, look, none of that shit bothers me. I don't give a shit. Really, honestly, it just don't bother me. But whenever it's like, no, you're gonna call me a unicorn, I'm like, I'm not calling you a unicorn. I'm sorry.
That
like,
shit could get intense, bro.
Like that's weird.
I've never seen a unicorn.
That's my thing. It's like, how did you come from a unicorn? I don't know. Do y'all just see unicorns running around? Is that what goes on?
In my 6 years of studying, of studying at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft, you know, I never got a chance to I never got a chance to see a unicorn. I heard about him, didn't get a chance to run into one, but
they are rare.
Maybe whenever we go to next time I go to homecoming and shit like that.
That's a centaur, right?
No,
yeah, centaurs, unicorns, you know, hey, all kinds of mythical creatures.
Okay, so I don't know. I kind of draw the line at him and her.
I don't know, man, because like, all right. So in reality, there's like a whole bunch of identity words, right? People want to be identified as what they want to be identified as. That's fine, but if you're just meeting somebody, you're going to go based off of what they look like, right? As bad as it sounds, like if somebody looks like a female, you're going to say, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, him, her. Like you're going based off of physical appearance, which, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, it's kind of hard to differentiate everybody, right? Because you don't know what they want to be called or what they want to be identified as. You just kind of got to go off of your fucking context clues.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and then
go ahead, Pat.
You can't like if you're one of those people who want to be identified as that, but get called something that you, I guess, look. So okay,
well, because
if you identify as a girl and I say, hey, what's going on, man, or something like that, because you're, in my eyes, what I saw, thought you were a guy or whatever, and then you automatically just get mad and like, no, that's not right. La, la, la.
See,
well, you kind of gotta not walk around with a sign, you know.
Only thing I will say about that is, in my experiences of running and communicating with people, I think that context and tone means everything a lot of times whenever you're dealing with a situation like that. I think that people understand that whenever, you know, let's say someone decides to have a sex change or you know what I'm saying, find themselves in a different way that might be a little confusing or a little tricky to the eye. I think they understand that from a perspective. Yeah. So when someone says, sir, and then, you know, they politely correct you, you know, ma'am, blah, 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 you know, or say ma'am. I believe that they understand that things can be a little confusing, but the context and then the tone of how you say it, you know what I'm saying, how you handle the situation, well, that's a fucking guy. I don't know what the fuck you're saying. You know, you know, that might cause a problem. You know what I'm saying?
What was that? Yeah. What video that went viral in the the place stop, the GameStop?
It was a GameStop, right?
I'm a man or something.
Like exactly what I was thinking.
I think that is a big thing that plays into it, right? All about how you go about the whole situation. Because, all right, say you go up to somebody and you misidentify them. I mean, it's up to that person to calmly explain to the other person what they want to be identified as. But at the same time, like our genetics, there's 3 possibilities, right?
Depends on who you're asking.
No, like genetics as far as your actual sexual composition. There's male, female, and then there's in between, right?
It depends on who you're asking. Yes.
Like just based off of chromosomes. There's only so much you can
go.
From
a scientific perspective.
No, I completely agree. Yeah. But people will disagree with you there.
But like, all right, so there's only, but scientifically it's been proven.
Yeah, I'm totally here with you.
You have an X, an XY.
And then you have hermaphrodite.
Yeah, hermaphrodite.
Disclaimer: none of us are genealogists. Or, you know, or any, you know what I'm saying. So
I did a whole presentation on hermaphrodites because I didn't know what it was at first, and I picked it in a genetics class.
What do you mean you didn't know? You
didn't know what it was, and then you look down, then you
see the word, and you were like, I don't know what that is.
You just went. You didn't know what that was.
I didn't, or maybe it was like a different the genetic. I don't know how.
You were trying to see if there were other people
out there like you. And I'm like, wait a minute. So I know a lot about hermaphrodites.
So let's just start out. Let's stick on that point. She chose a word for an assignment that she had no idea what it was.
Like, you have to broaden your
horizons.
Yeah.
So that's a big point.
Sometimes that can happen. That can happen, Cubano. I mean, maybe she was in the bathroom when everybody was getting first dibs, boo-booing. Again, it was choosing between the hermaphrodite or.
Will you apologize real quick?
Huh?
Cuban. So let's not do that.
What are we talking about?
He has no idea he called you Cubano. I'm just kidding.
Talking about?
She's trying to be politically correct because my identity is not of Cuban descent.
First of all, you're fucking ruining things right now. Okay. Yeah. All right.
Okay. But what were you saying about hermaphrodites?
We don't know.
If anybody,
have such a hard time. I get people to want to call me. My name is Joshua, and somehow I want to be identified as Joshua, and somehow people find a way to lazy down my damn name and say Josh, and that just pisses me the hell off. I'll be nice about it. You know what I'm saying? I'll be like, hey, what would you prefer to be called? Joshua. Oh, it's Joshua. And then, hey, Josh, well, fuck me up. Fuck with my name. Fuck my name. Cool, don't worry about it. Don't say my shit. Don't worry about it.
Okay, but...
All right, so back to the actual topic. So, I mean, scientifically, right, you only have a couple of options.
There's two sexes.
There's two sexes,
yeah,
right?
A hermaphrodite, you are one.
Yeah.
You just body doesn't develop fully.
So, I mean, is it really wrong for a person that believes that to not want to identify somebody as different?
What do you mean?
Like, all right, so somebody wholeheartedly believes that there's only two sexes. You're either a guy or a girl. Is it wrong for that person to not want to identify somebody as something completely different?
Oh, like a they or something?
They, them, X, whatever the identifier words.
Right, and I guess
do you think it's wrong for me to
I've
like
seen,
pink sitting down because it's comfortable?
What? What?
No,
is it wrong for me to enjoy pink while
the same
sitting
thing.
down?
What you do behind closed doors, that's on you. But I'm still going to address you as sir and Josh. So, and that's my, because
and what are you going to address me as?
Sir. But what you do behind closed doors, I don't care. But don't force me to call you something weird like Joshua. You know what I'm saying? That's not normal.
Oh shit, she's on her shit today. I like it. She's on her shit today. I like it.
Like, you are a man. You dress as a man. You are interested in women. So what's so wrong with me calling you sir and him and not they? First of all, how am I supposed to know you like they? Like, what?
That's where I believe that the context and like the tone comes in on a serious note. I believe that people people are understanding. It's like, well, okay, cool. You ever been in class with somebody who had like a really, really long or really unique name where it's like Anastasia Tanopoulos or some shit like that?
Hey, first off,
they realize that the substitute teacher is probably going to have a hard time reading their name from the jump street. So they'll be like, Anna, can I? It's just call me Ann. Just call me Ann. People realize that. So I believe it's tone and context of how you say it. You can't just be disrespectful and force your beliefs on another person. We can always agree to disagree and respectfully communicate through that. I believe, my opinion.
So when you see like,
all right, say you see something confusing out in public, what are you going to identify? What are you going to use like as your word? No, not midget strippers. Like, say you go out and there's a individual that comes up and talks to you, but you're not really sure what to identify that person as. Hello? What's your go-to? Do you ask them? Is it rude to ask them?
I have my headphones in and I pretend like I'm listening to music like they're not talking to me. I avoid the whole situation it completely. But I don't know.
I worked in like customer service before, and there's been times where I'm like, and so I avoid using identifier words. You just thank you, have a nice day, or yes, no, like try to stay polite, but you stay away from ma'am, sir, because there's been times I'm like,
Okay, but we're from Texas. It's second
nature. So I mean,
exactly. That's a great point. That's a great point right there.
Yeah, there is like
because we're from the South. It's almost hard to avoid the yes sir and no ma'am. Exactly. That's why I mean, I would probably if I've ever had a situation like that, and I have. First time it caught me off guard, I saw something, you know what I'm saying, that maybe just a little unique, a little different. Yeah, no, you know what I'm saying, it's just a little different than what I maybe, was accustomed to seeing. Nothing wrong with it, just a little different. And I didn't know exactly how to address the person. And so I asked my coworker, who was my boss at the time, and he had said that you address that person is a woman. They take to being called a woman. Anytime you communicate with them, yes ma'am, no ma'am, blah 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 blah. Even though you can see an Adam's apple, even though you can see certain things that are distinct on men, it's just a form of respect. So I did as such later on.
So I think all right, we need to reiterate that obviously all of us are polite young individuals, and we'll most likely use the identifier words that person asks us to use. We're not rude, we're not assholes or anything like that, but it's just a conversation, right? But the real thing I want to get into is why all of a sudden, or why here probably in the last decade has this really gained popularity? Like what has pushed people to want to identify as things other than what they were born as or what they choose to be as? Like, because the him, her thing, that's one thing, right? The they, them thing is something completely different that I don't even know what it actually means when you refer to people like that. What is the whole goal of being identified as that?
Okay, you know what? I think when you say him, her, yes, ma'am, no, you're referring to someone's sex.
Mm-hmm.
But when they say them or they're referring to their sexual identity, i.e., I like men, women, transgender. I don't identify.
So if somebody is transgender, though, like they're still choosing his sex, right?
But in my head, I'm sexually fluid. I am what I am today.
So that's a whole.
And
as a transgender, I would imagine that person would be from male to female, female to male, but at this end of the day, still be a male. Understand that they have, they're men. You know what I'm saying? Like there's certain things, like what I'm saying, as a male, it's hard for me to explain.
You know what I think would be interesting to get into too is like, all right, say this is a transgender person, say it's a male wanting to be female. How would you feel about that person competing in sports against other females?
Mm-hmm.
I've actually had that conversation. I do not agree with it. I've actually asked that question. To someone, and I actually asked, how do you feel about not even just competing in sports, in certain colleges, certain universities, certain places, such as maybe like Spelman or Morehouse. It's a all male, college, all female college.
Mm-hmm. I haven't even thought.
With that being said,
there
was an issue at one point in time when an applicant applied. She was transgender, but she applied to be, to get accepted into Spelman. Spelman is a historically women's college. So I'm not sure exactly how they handled the situation, but from, that's, I'm not sure exactly how they handled it, but I mean, a lot of people from what I've heard, I believe it comes down to with a situation such as that, what were you born as? Either way, were you born with what would classify a male from a female? a male from a woman, man from woman, and from a scientific perspective.
It's that last chromosome.
Yeah.
It's that
Yes.
Y chromosome.
Yeah.
But that's
So in
I have
that
mixed feelings about
in that scenario, I think it's a little different, right? Because if you choose to completely change your gender, you go through the process of having surgery or taking hormones or doing anything like that. Like that's obviously a life choice, and so you're completely changing your sex, which is fine.
Do you have the same amount of like estrogen levels as me? Like certain things would make someone more muscular.
The one thing I would be against is the male to female competing against other females, because obviously there's an advantage there, right? Like most men are bigger,
yeah, for sure,
stronger. Yeah. There's a different muscle form too to males.
Yeah,
absolutely. I agree.
So there's an advantage to that. So I would be against that. I mean, but at the same time, so you're becoming a female. You're taking estrogen, right, to become a female. That's probably fighting some of your testosterone too. So is it really okay for them to go against fully testosterone built men? Like it's a weird.
That's your choice, boo. You have to walk into that knowing, like, as a girl to go into a guy, you have to walk into that knowing you're at a disadvantage.
Yeah, like you're gonna throw punch your party.
Yeah, I really think when it comes to like rules like that, however the decision comes down, whether you would allow it or not allow it, it would have to be. It wouldn't be the exception. You would never account for the exception, the exceptional woman that can compete with the man. You know what I'm saying? You never account for it. You account for the average across the board woman. Could she compete fairly with men, or vice versa, men with women? Just with the different sex change and more chemicals or less chemicals, just things of that. I would think that would apply.
I don't know. Another thing I guess I want to know is like, when did the world get so damn sensitive? Because you watch the TV show, we were watching growing up. But it's true.
No. This
is
an interesting conversation.
The shows we watched growing up, and half the stuff they say and do on there, that is no longer acceptable for some reason. It's racist, sexist, it's something. And it's just unacceptable.
I'm very strong about this. I don't think that the world is sensitive now. I think what we're dealing with, I don't know if me and Cubano talked about this. I believe right now the world, what we're dealing with is almost like computers. It's like a sensory overload. It's too much information. It's too much information being trying to be processed and delivered in a right way at once. I say that because at one point in time you could look on a television show, and then the word faggot. My thing is, we all grew up. I think none of us use that word now, but the word faggot used to be used in common language. You could hear it on television. You heard it on shows. People use it amongst each other. Nowadays, if you call someone that, if you are, how can you say it? If you're not respectful or not, if you aren't, I can't think of the word. You have to be respectful of everybody, sensitive enough to everybody's like plight and choice and freedom of speech. And I believe that people weren't sensitive enough in the first place, and a lot of things that were unacceptable was passed as acceptable in a world where there was Jim Crow, slavery, all kinds of different things. And nowadays, right now, we are building a world that our kids will be able to live in and have a better one. But we are dealing with the sensory overload. Like I said, faggot used to be okay. That word was okay, or maybe it was never okay, and people just didn't stick up for themselves and say, hey, man, I associate, or that word is associated with the homosexual community or the gay community.
I see what you're saying. So you're saying that stuff was never
it was never okay.
Anything.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I think as though the N word has never been okay. But at one point of time, you were allowed to say, or even hell, Lewis said like this.
Scratch that, because people say it like it is okay now.
So I'll say that.
But we have to, where it comes into context, even though I don't, even though I don't necessarily like the word used in certain aspects, context means a lot. I'm talking about the context from a disrespectful aspect purely, where it was used, and people at one point in time was like, all right, cool. That's just the way life is. It's just a part of it. Just take it and go on with it. At some point in time, somebody said, you know what, that's not okay. And we're gonna stand up for, for this rights and blah 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 blah. And from there we move forward.
So I'll say this though, that yeah, there is more access to information, right? So you're seeing a lot more of the obscure things happening that people obviously didn't see, 15, 20 years ago. But I would say that there is some overreaction and some oversensitivity to certain things, just based off of like how things are going, right? Like sensitivity is obviously a sensitive subject, but like there's certain things that people react to that really don't deserve a reaction or really don't permit how they react. Like, you don't think there's overreactions to certain things?
Absolutely. I definitely do. I definitely agree that there are certain, in all aspects of what we talked about, from racial aspects, there are people that overreact. Everything's not racist. I told me and you talked about this, John. Every black person that gets pulled over by a police officer, everything is not racist. No, bro. You were going 80 miles in a 20. You were going 80 in a 20 in a school zone on your phone with your seatbelt off. It had nothing to do with you being black. You were breaking the law. Everything isn't racist. Everything isn't sexist. But I do believe we are in a time where we are trying to adjust, find the happy medium of respect for each other's community and ideas, even if we agree to disagree on certain aspects. Like I said, for a long time, we lived in a place where people were not respectful or sensitive or understanding to other people's opinions or differences and cultures and ideas. So now we live in a world where it's like you have to have zero tolerance for certain aspects, because if you don't, you'll have people that are bigots. You will have bigots in control. You will have bigotry running the country. You will have racism, sexism, and any form of narcissism, any of that. So it's almost like, I understand why people have to be, oh, well, what did you say here? And, there's no tolerance for it, blah, 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 blah. And it's almost like you can't even joke about things because it might create a slippery slope. And based off our past, the country's past, the history's past, we can't really afford that, especially if we're moving forward, creating a world that's better for our kids they'll be able to live in. We just have to get past this sensory overload that we're dealing with now. I think that was well put.
So I think
way to pat yourself on the back.
I think that
thank you.
I think obviously if the overall end goal is to make this place better, that's a good thing, right? But at the same time, you don't want, as bad as it's going to sound, you don't want soft people to live in this world 15, 20 years down the road. Like there's certain things and certain aspects of how things are done now that I don't agree with and that like we didn't grow up with.
People can't take a joke or participation
that's a big thing
trophies.
Too. Is like,
everybody's a winner. Everybody is not a winner, and you are not always going to win.
No, like, everybody should get a trophy. Yeah,
or I don't know, like you just like creating little soft, sensitive
exactly.
kids.
Like that's a big thing. Is like, all right, when we grew up, if you acted up a certain way in the store, you would get hit. You would get beat, pinched, something. Like you knew what the end result was going to be.
But now you spank your kids.
Yeah, you get looks. You spank a kid. Even if you talk sternly to a kid, you might get a look from people walking across the street and stuff like that. Like, and even every kid gets a trophy thing. Like, I don't agree with that. Like,
I don't agree with that either. I'm not a fan of that.
Kids need to learn how to lose because that's how you kind of learn how to get better. Like, you don't.
Or even learn if you don't. I'm not a big fan of, man, hey, just because you signed up and paid your money to play in the game, that you have to play a certain amount of minutes in the game. The thing is, though, about not playing, when you don't get picked, remember, you know what I'm saying? I'm sure you all remember this. Going to the basketball court, bring the ball, or the guy who would bring the ball to the court and the guy who brung the ball might not get picked. And you know what I'm saying? I'm being real. We're being honest. The guy who brings the ball to the basketball court might not get picked while everyone plays on this game. You know what that says? If you really want to play, at that court, you do one or two things. You get better, or you get better. You get better, or you know what I'm saying? Or you get better. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, no, I don't agree with that.
That's true, 100%, because there's people don't understand. You're setting your child up from at that point in time where you say, oh, okay, let's give everybody a trophy and everybody's going to be happy because little Johnny did great but none of them won their games. They all sucked. What happens when they get older and life hits them hard?
Even if I do it, it's a reward.
Nothing in this world is easy when you get out of there. It is not. It's a reality check, but that makes it scary. That makes it scary, and that's where. And I don't mean to go too deep with this because I know this isn't exactly where we're going with it, but that makes those like suicide rates go up. That makes these shootings and all this crazy shit happen because they can't take.
You're not going too deep at all. Everything is a domino effect. Everything. No, that's 100% correct. I believe that everything that happens in life happens for a reason. A lot of times, our exterior and who we are, our hard times, they build the character and the what do they call it in sports? They call it intangibles. Intangibles. The intangibles that people can't see. Yeah.
So I think we grew up in an interesting era, right? Because we were right after us is kind of when they started doing the whole participation trophy. So all of us kind of went through the whole thing of losing, not getting trophies, and not being picked, not having certain playing times and stuff. So we can see it from both perspectives. Because like I'm in an interesting spot right now because I've got kids and they're getting involved in stuff, and it's to a point to where everyone has to play, even they don't keep score, no one wins, no one loses, everybody gets trophies and stuff like that. 3, 5, 7, it doesn't matter. I can count. I know. Well, even at 3 though, you know when you lose. Kids know how it feels to lose.
So they know when they suck. And my kids think.
And you know what? And you know what? Remember, I said right now we live in a time where everything is sensory overloaded. So what we're doing is we're finding the happy medium on every aspect. You have to understand that before we just talked about how it's whenever you see a parent, a lot of times a parent will get on their kids in public. A lot of times people will look and respond because of things that have happened. You have to understand that there were some extreme incidences. There were extreme incidences where there was a parent that took it too far.
Oh, of course.
Where, there are a lot of kids that would be able to respond to constructive criticism. And my thing is, getting a whooping and, go picking. I had to go pick out my own switch in aspect, pick out my belt. I thought that was the worst fucking thing ever. Are you joking me?
I was just thinking that, like, to have to go pick your own thing that's about to get up on your ass, that was the worst thing. And then because where I lived, when you got in trouble and your parent came out and was like, hey, you did this, go get the switch, and everybody knew. Yeah. Everybody looked at you, but we all had the same thing because all the kids on my block where we lived, all the parents did the same thing. Go get the switch. And man, that changed your whole world.
I will say I never had to go pick out a switch.
But you get what we're saying though.
Yeah.
I'm also in a different category because my parents like to surprise us with random things that
that's
they grab.
I was
exactly. No, exactly. No, for sure. No, that happened also. What the fuck is this? This is a goddamn pad. This is an iron. What is this? What is this? What are you?
No, I swear, the worst one was the strap off my mom's purse. Ooh, she completely unbuckled that back in the car one day. For our asses. Oh.
So I would say the worst one I seen is my brother had gotten some shit, and he thought it was over, so he went in the shower. My mom begrudged, so she went and grabbed a plastic sword, light up sword, got his ass when he was wet in the shower, didn't have anywhere to run, and just beat the shit out of him.
But I
That's
think
that's crafty. That's living on this earth. That's what it'll do to you. It'll teach you
That's
all the
innovation.
tricks.
Innovative right there. That's being innovative. I love it.
I never got to play with that sword again because it touched my brother's bare ass. But it was cool.
I don't know. I think we are in an overload, and it's just.
But you have to understand, there's a story for all of those stories that we're talking about. We're laughing about those stories, but in certain aspects, I can only speak for myself. I understand the importance of being disciplined.
Oh,
I mean, I didn't like it then, and we're laughing about it, we're joking about it, but that shit hurt. There's
but
also,
at the end of the day,
yeah.
I bet you ain't. Well, you shouldn't have done it again.
So
like I bet you do it again.
Yeah, I think
but there are serious incidences in the world where that kid ended up on the news, where our parents stopped at a point.
It went too far.
It went
too far.
It went too far.
So, but again, you had mentioned it earlier, right? You can't base rules off of the extremes.
Yes, you have to. You can't. No, you cannot base them off the extreme. You cannot base them off the extreme.
Now they're kind of doing that, especially with disciplining kids, right? Or how you treat kids is like, all right, in the extreme cases, you would have, obviously none of us condone this, but you would have parents that would physically abuse their kids. But that's not the norm, right? That's maybe
there's a difference between a spanking and a parent flat out punching their kid.
Yeah, there's definitely.
There's a huge difference. The bruises are different. How the kid acts is different.
But again, can you
I took some punches. I took some punches. It's not that bad.
Can you keep the other parents from being able to discipline their kids because some parents are taking it to the extreme?
I think, well, like I said, abuse isn't just I got to spank and
it's not just physical.
Hard.
I mean, there's mental abuse too, right?
Like there's too. So like there's having like respect of your parent. Like, ooh, if I do this, mom's gonna tear my ass up, and being flat out scared of your parents. Like, please don't tell my mom. Like, flat out terrified. And so I think abuse looks a lot different than a parent who, gets onto their kid.
Yeah, I think there's easy identifiers between abuse and actual discipline. But now, especially because kids have access to information.
Oh, right? Yeah, now they can just call and be like, ooh, my mama hit me.
But you know what, man? I have to look at it like this, man. Like, even I would imagine that when you know better, you do better. So in certain cases,
at the same time, if your mom beats you, you ain't about to call nobody and be like, "Ooh, my mama hit me." Because
no, you're not. Your
mom is about to. You're too scared of your parents.
In most cases, you're not. Most cases, you're not.
You're
but
too
just
scared.
just like anything else, let's say if there's a school shooting, the first time there was a school shooting in an elementary or middle school, even though that might not happen very often, there are going to be strict rules. There are going to be rules that are put into place
to try and prevent it from happening.
Yeah, to prevent the most. I mean, if you were allowed to, bring like little metal or whatever it was, my thing is though, a lot of things are probably going to get cut out because of the extreme causes, the extreme, accidents that ended up happening. So even with the abuse situation, for all the people that say it made me better, this and that, there are extreme cases where those kids were really actually being abused. So if I had to put a rule in play, for the masses, to like follow and go by, I'm probably going to make it pretty extreme where it is like that.
Calls, then there needs to be welfare checks on those kids, hands down, because you never know, kids may call and they really may be beaten. If like 9 times out of 10 that's not the case, that one time that you helped out a kid, it's 100% worth it. But I'm just saying, like, for other people to judge you for spanking your kid is a bit.
Oh yeah, that's none of their damn business.
Like,
exactly.
Those kids have to know. They know better. I know I knew better. Like,
yeah.
Because we say, like, when is it too much or whatever. But I can remember a real specific time when I was a kid, and And we were told, "Hey, stop playing," because we live in duplexes where I grew up at, and everybody was right on top of each other as far as with their homes. And if you wanted to play, you needed to play in the backyard. But for some reason, we were being badass little kids, and we were playing in the front yard. And my mom had already told us, "Hey, guys,
She was gonna
go
tear
to the
your ass
backyard."
up. She told you she was gonna tear your
Right.
ass up.
Here's the thing. We decided we were going to keep on playing in the front yard. What did we do? Boom. Broke a lady, the next door neighbor. We broke her window. All of us take off running scared because we weren't listening to nobody. You know, sure enough, there it was. Got my ass whooped, got that spanking. I can remember walking to my room and saying something like, "I'm gonna call the cops" or something like that. And I remember my mom, and man, y'all know for most everybody, at least y'all know my mom. She's such a nice lady, but I just remember her saying, "Go ahead, call the cops, but I'm gonna whoop your ass the whole time until they get here."
Yeah,
And that stuck with me.
That had to be a go-to phrase for Hispanic moms, because my mom used to use that with my brother all the time. She would say she's got 15 minutes before they get here, so that's a whole lot of ass whooping.
Yeah.
That is a whole lot of ass whooping.
But like I mean, shit, it's a different era, right? Like we were exposed to that stuff, and we grew up with that stuff. But I would say our generation, I mean, but we're in an interesting generation, right? Because we're all considered millennials. I think there's a difference between us as millennials and guys that are younger than us.
Than us is Gen X.
Well, no, because millennials, they're still like 5 or 10 years younger than us.
Millennials.
1994.
No. It's like 2000
I thought like
or
87
something.
to 94.
Wait up, let me check this out. Because I just
it's like it is 87 to 94. I think it is.
Yeah.
I thought.
Because I know a lot of what people think are millennials are Generation X.
All right, so 1981 to 1996.
Yeah.
81. That's a lot of people.
That's but
shit.
1,000 babies.
No, what I'm saying, even like the
kids?
90s, like the mid 90s kids, like mid 90s kids are completely different than us. Like even their lingo, the way they talk, the way they think is completely different than most of the people we hang around with. Like
Facts.
yeah, so like we're in an interesting part of growing up, because we kind of got the best of both worlds. We had competition, we had winners and losers, we had
those old school parents that
we had
up.
parents that tore our asses up, and we had a whole bunch of freedom
but
too.
Then you have those.
But we also had the benefits of technology and understanding that knowledge. Knowledge is key. Knowledge is power.
So I would say like we were probably in the best spot to be able to go through most of the shit that we went through. But
the only bad thing I would have to say is that we are the ones that are responsible for finding that happy medium. Like right now, that's what I mean by our kids will be able to live in a better world because of us having to endure sensory overload of the world, where it's like, well, damn, nobody wants to talk about anything because people are too sensitive. Well, remember, we also lived when there was a point. We lived through the point of when people weren't sensitive enough. They weren't sensitive at all, which is not okay. That is not okay.
The difference between being sensitive to something and just straight up not giving a damn. Because back in the days, maybe they didn't, but like what you're saying is wrong and is awful, it's disgusting. The fact is, you just don't give a fuck. Now, people are saying things and they some just don't understand what they're saying is messed up.
So I think that's
for the most part. Like if I were to straight up, I don't know, go to this person next to me and call him like the dirtiest Mexican name I know, like that's messed up, I know. But if I were to be like, oh,
first off, I'm Cuban, so
okay, well, like I don't know, like a beaner or something. And if I don't know that's messed up, don't be like, oh my God, let's fire her from her job. Like I don't freaking was that rude? I don't know.
So I think that's interesting too, right? It's all about context. Like what you can get away with the people you hang around with.
Exactly. You know what you can get away with.
Yeah, we're in a group that we've known each other enough. We're able to joke around certain things that probably with other people we probably wouldn't be able to do or feel comfortable doing.
Yeah.
So is that a bad thing? Like, does that
No.
make you comfortable to where you
Cubano,
might try to
I was just about to ask you this. Do you think, even though we have a group that we are comfortable and we understand each other, I believe that people have a general understanding of other people, and even if you don't know them, there are certain places where I know when people are riding the car and they hearing a song, and what is the YG song? My igga, cool. I don't believe that whenever people of other cultures and races outside of the black and African American culture, I don't believe that they sing that when they're at Beef O'Brady's, when they're at Buffalo Wild Wings in the general public. I believe that people have a general understanding of what is acceptable and what's not acceptable overall, even if there is some gray areas.
I've been to places where I've been the only black person, and I will never forget.
That's different. That's different.
And
different.
They just didn't know I was there.
No, they knew. They knew. No, they knew.
Well, they knew I was there, and what was it? Kanye West, Gold Digger comes on, saying every fucking word to that song until the guy that was his machine turned it off. It was like, what the fuck?
And my only issue is, would they say that if you were at the address, Delise? If it was vice versa, let's say at the place you were, let's say if there were 30 people, 29 of them were African American, whoever was singing the song, would that same energy be responded? However that Kanye West song was, the way they were singing it where you were, would they have sang it the exact same way?
If they were all black?
If the place was all black.
Yeah.
You said, would they? You think they would have said that? They would have sung it that way?
You're saying, like, if it was a Caucasian person singing, would he have said it?
Would he have
at
said
an all
it?
black establishment?
No.
Yeah, no.
That's my whole issue.
See, so I think it's more of a majority type thing, right? If a bunch of people are in a place surrounded by the people they know or people that are similar to them, they're probably more free with how they talk and how they speak, which is a bad thing, right? Like, you shouldn't speak a certain way in front of certain people and a different way in front of other people. Like, you should keep the same energy at all points.
Energy.
Facts.
I agree.
It reminds me of how when you're kids. It reminds me of how when you're kids, I explain this to people. They say, "Why do you have such an issue with certain people?" I say, "I don't necessarily like certain things, but I can't control what other black people allow you to do around them. But I say, if you use the N-word, use it, you know what I'm saying? Keep the same energy everywhere." So my thing is, though, I feel like when people don't use it in all black establishments, or if you have black friends, if you wouldn't say it around their mother, their family, their grandmother, I almost take it as you, like how little kids will, I take it like in the same scenario as little kids, whenever they know a song and they're riding in the car with their parents and the song has cuss words, they know the word is bad. They know they shouldn't say it. And they sing every word and they bleep out the cuss word. They don't say the cuss word. Why don't they say the cuss word? Because they know it's there. They know it's wrong. But they also say it when you're not around. Mm-hmm. So, like, I take it as the same thing. I feel like people should use the same energy because I really believe that people have a general understanding or a general sense of knowing. Yeah, a general sense of understanding and knowing when things are acceptable socially, and when things are respectful and disrespectful on a social level also, even if it's a gray area. I think they know from a basis, not even like, from a deep perspective, not even going deep into it, from a general perspective. So
I think it's one thing to know that it's wrong, but it's a different thing to actually follow through with your thought of it being wrong. Like, you can know something's wrong. Like, people know that committing crimes is wrong, but they still commit those damn crimes.
Exactly.
Right? So I think the only way to really tackle that issue is just kind of trying to stop division between people. Like, 'cause at the end of the day, identifying people based off of their colors or based off of their races is probably creating more of an issue than the actual issue. Like, as long as you're keeping people isolated from each other or keeping people separated from each other based off of where their ancestors were born or based off of even where they were born, like that's creating an issue in itself, right?
I think so. Like we were saying, we're all
like at the end of the day,
Texas.
yeah,
like
everybody that lives here is probably Texan first, American second,
yeah,
and then race
But-
third, right? Like I think rather than identifying people based off of color or skin or anything like that, like just as bad as it sounds, having more of a nationalistic idea is probably better. Like everybody's American, just period.
I agree.
Is anybody else on here?
They hung up on you.
They may have
Fuck
hung up.
this.
They said, I'm out of here.
I'm bored. They really shut up.
I don't know.
I
Anybody?
guess that was. We just end on that note.
Thought
That
y'all,
was a good little.
thought y'all were gone, man.
Am I still on?
Whatever.
Yeah.
To end on.
What?
Are you there?
Who's
Yeah,
that?
I'm here.
All right. So again, I would just like to reiterate that none of us really know what the hell we're talking about. We're all using just general knowledge and things that have happened to us. We're not experts, nor do we claim to be
And
experts.
if you do know what when they refer to they are, please.
Yeah,
comment and
let
us
us
know.
let us know. I mean, because like I said,
We don't fucking know.
we're not rude people. If you want to be identified as certain things, you let us know.
Don't come at us correct. Though.
Exactly. There is a right way to come at somebody with information.
Yeah.
And the more angry
Yeah.
you come at me, the more angry I'll probably come back at you. But again, we're not experts. We're all just trying to be adults and trying to get through life. Yeah. And I mean,
Yeah.
shit, if this helps somebody else, or if somebody else had the same thoughts as we do, then hopefully this conversation kind of enlightened them or gave them some type of entertainment.
Cut it out, Cubano. Supposedly grown, supposedly grown, supposedly grown, supposedly grown.